Let's go. We're talking about the LSU offensive line today. Is this something that could get fixed this year? First thing, though, let's hear from the man himself.
It seems continuity has been an issue on the O-line all season. Coming into the game, the starting O-line has only played nine plays together. It seemed to show up against Auburn this week. Is that something that you guys are obviously addressing? Is that something that you've seen in practice this week?
Well, we started seeing it in camp. We didn't have our O-line, starting O-line. It was mixed all the time, and the continuity wasn't there. I think Coach Davis is doing a tremendous job. Listen, we lost our offensive line coach. This is not an excuse. It's a fact, okay, in the middle of the summer. And he comes in, and he's a great coach. But there's a different style. There's some different techniques. Guys are veteran players. They got to get used to that. And there's a combination of our guys not being out there all the time, and then another combination of just being committed to the run game, being very physical, and we're going to run the football, and this is what we're going to do. So all those things come into factor of why we're not running the ball very well. Again, let me say this again. That is totally my responsibility.
So, yeah, that was a pretty interesting answer to that question, but you hear that word a lot, that buzzword, continuity. And I'm tired of hearing it, okay? I keep reading that the LSU offensive line only has played X amount of snaps together, but whenever you hear continuity, that means that the starters haven't been able to develop the chemistry that they need for them to be able to succeed. And look, don't get it twisted. Continuity is very important, especially with a position like the offensive line. You have to develop that chemistry, and you hear that buzzword a lot as well. But here's the issue with using the continuity excuse, is that the guys that were there last year that are back this year are the ones that are struggling, okay? So, first thing, I know a lot of you were expecting the full first half film study today. We have pushed it to tomorrow because I feel like this is very important. So a lot of you saw this play from yesterday. This was a part of our film study, and I know it's lengthy. That's why I want to do a shorter video so you guys can be able to catch up. But you see here, this is just a simple case of our returning center, Liam Shanahan, getting blown back into oblivion, okay? Then this twisting defensive tackle probably should have been picked up by Ed Ingram here. And, of course, Chasen Hines isn't going to make the block that is needed here. And this is a crucial red zone sack. So I understand we want to use the word continuity, but these are 4 of your 5 starters, and the offensive line was still bad. Now, there's a lot of things you can do to defend this offensive line. First thing is they do have a new offensive line coach in Brad Davis. He did come a little bit late into the process for LSU, and he is teaching them some new techniques. So I obviously defend Ed Ingram and all those guys because it is difficult changing offensive line coaches. You can argue the offensive line coach is the third most important assistant outside of course, your offensive and defensive coordinator. So I understand that. And there's a lot of other excuses you can make for the LSU offensive line. Get the play call in quicker. They're standing in their stances for way too long. I totally agree with that, and we have made that point plenty of times on this channel. Also, let's be honest, LSU doesn't have the absolute most special running backs that they've ever had. So that's part of it as well. Irregular play calling, new play calls, new play callers. Max Johnson holds on to the football too long and doesn't make quick enough reads. All those things are very valid excuses for the LSU offensive line, and they are factored into the equation. However, this just comes down to they can't play, okay? We can make each and every excuse about scheme and all that, but the thing about the play that we just broke down isn't necessarily that the LSU offensive line has continuity issues. This is just a simple case of one guy outmanning another guy and blowing him back. Now, I understand this is just one play, but the issue was that this happened all night, and this is not Derek Brown. This is not Glenn Dorsey we were going up against. Now, Auburn has really good defensive tackles, but this is far from their best group that they've ever had. And this offensive line, especially that middle of the offensive line, has a lot of continuity. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I just don't think that those guys are good enough. Obviously, in particular, Chasen Hines and Liam Shanahan. But there's layers to it. So before I continue, once again, I don't like criticizing players. This is my favorite team of all time, and I wish all these guys turned out to be Orlando Pace and Jason Kelsey, whoever you want to mention. So I wish them nothing but the best. And I am not blaming them personally or individually because I'm mad that they aren't playing well. They're giving it their hardest. It is not for a lack of effort, okay? But this is another case where we got blown into Max Johnson here. And as you guys saw in yesterday's film study, and some of this does go on Max Johnson for not releasing the football quick enough, but in yesterday's film study, we actually led off with another blowback on Liam Shanahan where the ball was deflected and it negated a defensive pass interference penalty that forced us to punt the football or not get a first down. So this is an issue, a major issue. It's hard, really, really hard to win a football game when your center gets blown back by the zero tech 3 yards into the backfield. Probably 1 out of every 3 plays where that happened. And when that wasn't happening, there were other instances where we were just flat out whiffing, and that was part of the issue with our run game. So you see here, this was actually good protection here for Max Johnson to hit Jack Besh on this first down. Yes, this twist almost got home, but we still was able to pick it up there at the end. So there were some instances where the LSU offensive line was able to make some really good plays, but it was mostly really, really, really bad. Now, who do we blame for this? Well, some of this does go on Brad Davis. You're getting paid $830K a year to figure out this issue, but he was thrown into the fray really late into the process, and I'm sorry, it's just I got to defend a guy when it comes to that, and I understand that he is coaching them up with some new techniques and all of that, so I defend him there. And like I said, some of it comes down to Jake Pizza's play calling and it being faster and whatnot. But to me, this falls on Ed Orgeron because there's actually layers to this. The first thing is there's no way, and we did film studies all throughout last year, there's no way that you could have watched last year's offensive line, even if they were all returning, and thought they were going to be, in the words of Ed Orgeron, one of the stronger units on the team, okay? What film was he watching to even think that would be the case, okay? I understand you want to talk up your unit and pump them up and be positive, but I honestly think he believed that, which is lunacy because LSU's offensive line was the worst unit on the team last year, and the same thing is happening this year. So, number one, there were no changes made to the LSU offensive line. And I know Dare Rosenthal transferring really hurt this group. Cannot say it enough. He let the team down. He decided to go to Kentucky, whatever the reason was. I don't really care. He just let everyone down. But still, the middle of the offensive line is still struggling. Austin Deculus, I think, is playing slightly better, but he's still not that great either, okay? So, Ed Orgeron, I don't know what he was looking at because it was so bad last year, and it shouldn't be a shock this year. So that's the first thing. The second thing is he doesn't have a contingency plan. And the way that we can tell by this is that, once again, he's still throwing basically the same unit out there each and every week. Only injuries force some other guys to play. And by the way, Marlon Martinez wasn't all that bad. Some of the other guys were okay up to this point. Cam Wire being hurt, whatever. But the second thing is he didn't have a backup plan. And the way I know this is because when the game was well in the balance, Ed Orgeron would not play a new center versus Central Michigan or McNeese until the final drive of the game, which is lunacy. Why not at that point see if there is another center that could potentially play? Because right now, Liam Shanahan ain't it. It just is not he's not playing well. One thing you can always count on with Liam Shanahan is that he's going to give you a good snap every time. Even that wasn't the case. He had an erratic snap on the first drive of the game that almost cost us a touchdown. If it wasn't for Kayshawn, stepping up for us on the very next play, even that was bad. So the fact that we aren't trying new players and we aren't trying new combinations, who cares about continuity if the guys that are returning can't play? So I'm sorry. This is on Ed Orgeron. He is the constant from last year to this year. It's not Jake Peetz. He's new. It's not Brad Davis. He's new. You made the decision to move on from James Craig, who once again wasn't the absolute best. But if you make that decision, you better help and fix that issue. Because if you're a line coach and you're not a coordinator, that is something that we need you to be strong with. And let's be honest, some of the defensive line techniques that are being taught right now aren't necessarily improving our defensive line either. Allowing quarterbacks to dance around for 1,000 seconds in the backfield and making Manziel type of plays. We're having issues with that as well. And, we've talked about that plenty. So Ed Orgeron's coaching of both the lines is the center of all of this, and there's no other way around it. We can make a bunch of excuses for this group. We really can. And once again, I don't put this on Liam Shanahan. It's not his fault that he's still being thrown out there. And there are some other things that could be done. To me, I don't get the Jason Hines thing. I really don't. But what do I know? I'm just a dude with the YouTube channel. The bottom line is there's a few things we can do to fix this. The first is just trying to run the football under center. Give it a chance. Jason Hines was actually a really good guard when he played in 2018 when LSU was running under center. So I guess you might give it a shot to get the run game going because right now it's not cutting it. I'm not saying that you absolutely need to run the football, but teams are not respecting it at all. We're the only SEC team not named Mississippi State to not average at least 100 yards on the ground, and we're not even close with 70 yards per game, and we are averaging under 3 yards per rush, negative rush EPA. Any stat that you want to point out there, we're really, really bad. So maybe do that. Just give it a shot. Who knows what can happen? And something else I think we can all do is, it would be nice if Ed Orgeron was asked specifically his evaluations of the offensive line. Specifically, which players do you think are actually playing well? Because something I saw last week was Ed Ingram said, well, the problem with our offensive line issues against Mississippi State were the young guys. Well, the young guys didn't play versus Auburn. It was all experienced guys that have been in the pro. Each and every offensive lineman that played against Auburn had at least, well, outside of Martinez, I think, had at least 3 years of college experience in a college program. So it wasn't young guys against Auburn, and it was still an issue. So, there's so many things that we can talk about, but we're going to go ahead and cut it right here. Let me know what you think. Is this offensive line fixable? Comment down below. And hopefully we have some time. We'll do a first half film study tomorrow. I know a lot of you were expecting that. But if you want to check out our second half film study, you can It'll be floating in your face in just a second. It is Power Hour LSU Bomb. Come on, OL. We need you. If not, Kentucky. And this is something else just for you guys that stayed to the end here. One thing that's going to be a little concerning is we're going to be playing against more three-man fronts the rest of the way. And what every team is going to do is keep putting that zero-tech nose tackle right head up over the center. And they're going to keep driving Liam back into the backfield unless we do something about it. And if that continues to happen, your offense just simply can't operate that way. So hopefully that gets fixed. And I think we're doing some shrimp tonight. Again, let's go.